Good evening. We're here for our second February 2015 Brattleboro Selectboard meeting. The meeting was convened at 5:30 and we went into executive session to discuss contract and labor relations matters. So we know that the meeting's been officially warned. Welcome to everybody who's watching on TV, and welcome to everybody who's in attendance this evening. The first item on tonight's agenda is to approve the minutes from January 29 and February 3, 2015. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion to approve the minutes from January 29 and February 3 as presented. Are there any comments or suggestions, suggested revisions from anybody on the board? Anything from anybody who's in attendance? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes from January 29 and February 3 Select Board meetings as presented, please say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed or abstaining? That carries 3-0. The next item on the agenda is chair's remarks. First, I'll note that we only have 3 members of the Select Board with us this evening, and there's only 4 of us up here at the table. In order to conduct business of the Select Board, we need a majority vote of the whole board. So that means that in order to adopt and have approval of any motion tonight, we need all 3 board members voting in the affirmative. And as to some of the votes and matters, it may require broader consideration by the board as a whole. So as to some of the items on the agenda, we may be either withholding motions or tabling motions until the first March meeting, which is Election Day, March 3rd. It's been a challenging 2 weeks. There's been quite a bit of snow and quite a bit of cold weather. We want to give a shout out to and thank particularly the Public Works Department for a very intense period of work that they've been handling for the town, keeping the roads clear and then removing snow in between storms. It takes a lot of effort and a lot of coordination, and we want to thank them particularly for their hard work during this difficult weather period. I would also note, and the town manager's also going to speak a little further, we've got a really dedicated and organized snow removal program. And on nights when snow removal is going to be occurring either downtown or in the parking lots or in the major roads leading into and out of town, vehicles have to be removed from the roads. And there's been some complaints about the way those policies have been implemented over the course of the last weeks, and the town manager will be speaking to that. But we do ask everybody to be attentive and cooperative in removing their vehicles so that the Department of Public Works personnel can keep the roads and the parking lots clear of snow, which helps with visibility and with traffic flow and with keeping everybody safe during these winter months. I would also just give a quick shout out to the ski jump. I didn't happen to be there, although I expect there's some people in the back who were there since their son took the one of the trophies. But it looked well attended when I drove past on the way to cross-country skiing. And we want to congratulate everybody who participated in that event. Finally, besides all the matters that we see dealt with here at our open meetings, there is quite a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes here at the town as well. And Mr. Elwell has now been on board. I think it's 4 weeks today. He's been doing really just a really substantial amount of work. One of the priorities that we focused on and have focused on for some period of time is the need to look at economic development in a comprehensive way and in a way that really does look at and protect the town's interests and advocate for the town's interests. I'm not really prepared to give a lot of specifics right now, but we have been focusing quite a bit over the last couple of weeks on coalition building and regional cooperation in that economic development area. And we look forward to being able in the next weeks and months to making some plans public that hopefully will, in a very organized way, speak to economic development issues that a lot of people have been speaking about over the years that maybe haven't been the focus of our efforts in the last years, but that we hope to be able to be participating in a much more directed way going forward. That's all of the chair's remarks. The next item on the agenda is the town manager's comments. Peter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I'd like to follow up on what you mentioned about the snow removal, and we did take a look at it with the management team, looking at what the different departments do in terms of both informing the public and then enforcing the rules related to the need for the cars to be off the street on the evenings and out of parking lots on those occasions, on the evenings when snow is being removed from the downtown area. And we found that that was a fairly decentralized process with multiple departments involved in different aspects of it, and that we could improve both the public communication and the enforcement effort by focusing the implementation of it when the decision has been made by Public Works and the contractors are being mobilized, as they are this evening, to have the word go to the police department that that's going to happen, and then have it be one-stop shopping with the police department in terms of both the release of that information to the media and to the general public, activating the signals or the lighting system downtown, and then also coordinating the enforcement activity in the evening. So we hope, we know that it's a process with some level of inconvenience. We have had some complaints from some members of the public. We hope that people will find that at least the handling of this matter, while we can't make it less inconvenient, we can at least handle it in a way that hopefully does have the public well informed at the times that it's occurring and make an efficient enforcement effort out of it. So that centralization, I think, is going to be helpful. The other thing I'd like to do in the spirit of the shout outs is recognize Chief Mike Bukasi, who's here tonight, who also, in addition to all of the work that's done by so many people in the Public Works Department to get the roads clear, Mike is the point person on communicating with us about the information we get from the weather forecasters out of Albany, make sure that everybody's aware when there's going to be a situation so we can be prepared as part of our emergency management activities to mobilize the troops at the right time to get out to the right places. And that's really helpful, including situations like Sunday's power outage, which we were aware of right away and able to deal with in terms of communicating with Green Mountain Power and getting information shared with folks who were prepared to take additional emergency management actions if that had become necessary. Fortunately, the power came back on quickly, and that was not necessary. So thank you, Mike, for that. And then the last thing, I don't know if you want to handle that or if you want me to, but
You can go ahead. Yeah.
While I'm on a roll.
Yeah.
The last thing was that we just wanted to make sure that the public was aware of two scheduling matters, because one is going to happen at a different time than normal and the other at a different place than normal. Most importantly, probably in terms of the broad interest of the community, 2 weeks from tonight, the select board meeting will not be in this room because that's election day and there'll be voting going on in this room. So we will be upstairs in the VCTV studios for the select board meeting on March 3rd. Next week, on Tuesday, February 24th, we'll have the monthly Traffic Safety Committee meeting. That's normally an early morning meeting, but to accommodate some people who are coming in from Burlington to participate in that meeting with us this month, that's going to be at 2:30 in the afternoon on the 24th. Thank you.
The next matter on the agenda, thank you, Peter. The next matter on the agenda is Select Board comments and committee reports. Any comments or committee reports?
I'll just jump on the Thank Public Works bandwagon, and I'll put my Chamber of Commerce hat on. And I know it's very much appreciated, especially downtown, how fast the snow has been removed. So I know two people have said it, but I don't think it can be said enough that we need to thank everybody who works at Public Works.
All right, then I would like to throw in that why is there an excessive amount of snow in my driveway when you guys go by? That's not a shout out. I just thought. Anna?
No comment.
I'm going to pay for that. You're right. Well.
Next matter on the agenda is public participation. If anybody who's in attendance wants to speak to anything that's not on the agenda, this would be a good time. Mr. DeGray.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and congratulations to the board members who are running. Luckily, I think you're going to meet on election night, so that's kind of unique and different in itself. Let me be the third in the room to, again, pass along our appreciation. I'm part of the Downtown Alliance for the snow removal and how expeditiously it has been done. I know there was a few merchants downtown who were concerned about clearing the crosswalks, and a few volunteers have stepped up, as people do all over town. They shovel crosswalks, they shovel out fire hydrants, and so thank you to all those people. The other thing, Mr. Chairman, you did touch upon is Harris Hill. And it is a unique thing that happens in our town every year, and we can't thank that committee and those volunteers enough. Liz Richards, Pat Howell, Dana Sprague, Karen Zelenakis, Kate McGinn, and I'm sure I'm leaving out quite a few. There was 150 volunteers that donated 4,000 hours in that cold weather. And as I heard you say, you drove by in the car, and those people were out there, and I can tell you Sunday was absolutely brutal. And those volunteers were there, and I didn't think that jump was going to happen. And the jumpers themselves, who have paper mache outfits on, and they really froze, but they pulled the jump off. And the people in the community, I believe, really have to get behind that event. That is first class, world class, and if you've never seen ski jumping, you see it on TV. This as professional as any jump that you'll see over in Europe, and we have it happening here with a volunteer group of people in our community, and you just can't thank those people enough and all the volunteers. The last thing I want to say is Election Day is coming up. There are no races, but the back of the ballot, there are some serious questions for people to vote on, and I know you're going to talk about the charter changes, I won't mention that, but there's another question there about the 1%. And I am a strong advocate for that. And I believe that, I know I've read a couple of letters saying, why are we revisiting that? I'm glad that you did put it on the ballot, and I believe that if it passes this year, it's incumbent upon town meeting not to turn their back on the electorate if this passes. And if it doesn't pass, then I'll be one of the people standing and say, you know what, let's turn away and look away for another source of revenue. But this isn't the end-all, be-all. But even if you took out the police fire station, you looked at our capital plan and the other emergencies and issues that have popped up in the past year, the retaining wall, the bridge, we need another source of revenue. And you're never going to grow the grand list with our tax rate. You can talk about that grand list growing, but I wouldn't move my business to a community that has a tax rate like this. And if we don't do something about that, and this is one of the things that the legislature has allowed us to have in place if we choose to implement it on ourselves. So I strongly urge you to support the 1% tax. Thank you very much for your service.
Thank you, Mr. DeGray. Anybody else want to speak during public participation?
Hi, I'm Cassandra, and I'm with the Brattleboro Area Prevention Coalition. I also wanted to publicly thank you all and Annette Cappy for ensuring that our liquor licensees not only adhere to their responsibilities of not serving to underage or intoxicated customers, but also providing them the resources so that they can do so. I have talked to other coalitions throughout this county. They're really excited to take this to their own towns. The addendum that you have that is attached to the Department of Liquor Control liquor license is just, it's such a great example of what other towns can do. And I, again, just want to thank all of you for providing those to the liquor licensees. I also want to thank the liquor licensees that come to our responsible beverage service trainings. They're held every 3 months. The next one's in March, and it's done through the Department of Liquor Control. And they come, a lot of them come, and they bring their staff, and I just think it's wonderful. So I want to put a shout out to them, and so just thank you.
Thanks, Cassandra. Anybody else want to speak during public participation? The next matter on the agenda, aptly enough, is to convene as liquor commissioners. Do we have a motion to convene as liquor commissioners?
I move that we convene as liquor
We have a
commissioners.
motion to convene as liquor commissioners. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed or abstaining? That carries 3-0. So this is the first time that we are handling the annual liquor license renewal under the new approach that was proposed by the town clerk about a month ago, and that's now resulted, Tim, not in a first round of liquor license applications, but all liquor license applications at once. So we have tonight for presentation all of the businesses that hold liquor licenses for renewal of those licenses contingent on their getting the necessary paperwork submitted. Is that fair to say, Annette? Okay. So, Peter, if you want to, can you briefly speak to the process that results in these liquor licenses making their way here, or should I ask Annette to do that?
I can give a one-liner overview, and if you want more detail, then we'll ask
Yeah,
Annette. Essentially, there is a review that has been conducted internally among town staff to flag any concerns related to any of the existing license holders, and no such concerns arose to the degree that we would come to you and say that that there's any current license holder that ought to be singled out from this list. So we're here tonight to recommend that you approve the list, subject to two conditions. One is the submittal of a completed application by each of these entities to renew, because each year there are a few who don't, and so there's probably somebody, one or more on the list that won't do that. So obviously that would negate your approval tonight. And the other thing, of course, is there is the review that has to occur by the state, and there is the possibility that due to other factors beyond what we review, that the state might decline to issue a license to any of these parties. So that your action would be also contingent upon the final action by the state.
All right.
Annette, anything else?
That was a good explanation. Thank you.
Sure.
Anybody on the select board, any questions right now?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
There's a few of them that say they have liquor violations.
Yes.
I don't like approving that.
Those are liquor violations that are enforcement actions that have been taken by the state liquor control board. So they're not reflecting an action taken by town staff that we would flag for your concern. They're included in here so that you know that there are people who have issues they need to get straight with the state about, and that may or may not affect the state's final action. I don't know how it might affect that or how it has affected licensing in the past.
Yes, please, Annette.
Those violations are state violations, and the only way that we know about them is that DLC informs us. They email me when there is a violation, but then they also email me when that violation has been taken care of. Generally, if you serve a minor, first offense is a fine, second offense is a higher fine. You may lose your license if you continue. But all of the offenses there have all been resolved with DLC between the licensee and the Department of Liquor Control. Some have had their licenses suspended, but
On this list?
they're just there. Only those that you have that information on. If there are more, we are aware of it. But these are all items that DLC has handled.
See,
Kate, you want to continue?
No, this is why I didn't want to do it like this in the first place, so I'm sort of conflicted here. I guess I have no choice, but,
Well,
I mean, I voted against doing it this way.
but we still
And I-
have the right to pick them out, I mean, and to question anyone on here.
The information that you're receiving is exactly as
Right.
it has been in the past, and the violations are there because
Right.
several years ago, the board asked to see what
Yeah.
violations the
Yeah.
state had. But the format, everything's the same, except I don't have all of the applications.
Right.
Katie, you finished for now?
Yeah.
Don't have to be.
No, you don't, you can keep going.
No.
All right, John, hold on a second, because,
Well,
John, go ahead.
Yeah, there's one that sticks out like a lot. I
Yeah.
mean, there's a lot of violations. It's not just one or two.
Right.
That one bothers me.
Yeah, and that has been an issue with DLC right from the beginning of the establishment.
And I'm not gonna mention it because
I think they're watching them closely, and,
Well-
but it's up to you. There
okay.
are violations that we wouldn't even know about,
Right,
Right.
and I
but
don't
I'm
know.
glad we do know about it.
Yes, yeah, so it's totally up
Because
to
we
you.
are the liquor commissioners.
So, I'll speak and then Cassandra, I'll recognize you. Even if we were doing liquor license renewals using the procedure that was in place in prior years, we would still be getting information like what we've gotten tonight. The only difference would be that
Did you want to time?
we would only be getting the applications after the applications had been submitted to Annette to be forwarded to the board.
Right.
And we would be considering whether approve or not approve various applications as the applications came in, rather than en masse. In years past, when we've had a smaller group of liquor license applications, I've actually taken the time to read the names of all the establishments that are getting approved at any given meeting so that everybody knows what's being approved. There is some merit to saying out loud and in the public record which of these establishments that sell or distribute liquor have had violations. And I'm planning to read those out loud so that there's no question about it.
That's fine.
Also, this board has previously denied one of the liquor license applications that came through in the annual batch
In mass.
because of a collection of violations that we found so troubling. And I think it would be utterly appropriate as to the one business that's got 5 or 6 or 7 violations, not to approve that one now and make the owner come here to talk with us. And if we're not satisfied, to not approve their liquor license. That's certainly an appropriate way to proceed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to note now that every business that's got a liquor license in the town of Brattleboro is up for renewal of their liquor license tonight. And that runs from the bars to the restaurants, to the gas stations, to the supermarkets. Every place that sells alcohol in town is up for liquor license renewal. There are a series of businesses that have had single, and I'll call them isolated because they're single liquor license violations. And I'm going to say who they are because it's important that we know.
Mr. Chair, can I ask one thing though? There's one in here that is closed, so what do we do about that one?
Which one?
Milagros.
All right, well,
Well, I'm just wondering how we handle, I don't want to give them a license if they're not open.
No, but if you choose to, you can omit that one.
Right.
As
Okay.
you have the right to omit any that you don't feel that have violations.
Right, because I was reading through. I
That-
read through
that
every
came
one.
like
So I just
today.
wanted to
Right.
just see how
And
the
if
procedure
there
was
are
on
others
it.
that are closed, then they won't be sending in their paperwork and your approval goes no further.
Okay.
and so after we make the motion to approve them all, we can take some of them out,
Okay.
if that's what you want to do. So, the Grill of Brattleboro at 209 Canal Street had a violation for sale to a minor on June 18th of 2014. The Indo-American Grocery at 69 Elliott Street had a sale to a minor, 3/28/14. Putney Road Market had an underage sale, 11/15/14. Sportsman's was delinquent on their state taxes as of 12/16/14. I'm going to skip Vermont Asian Gourmet for now, and then I'm going to say that Wyndham Wines had an insufficient staff training as of November 15, 2014. So of a lot of businesses, Annette, do you know how many have licenses?
77.
Of 77 businesses, only 4 of them had single violations over the course of the year. So that's a pretty good record, actually. On the other hand, Vermont Asian Gourmet at 911 Western Ave, formerly something called Panda, maybe now it used to be Panda West, had the following liquor violations: 4/28/14. Physical altercation in the restaurant, failed to pay employee, failed to report withholdings, furnished false information to police officer. And then May 5th, failed to abide by order to have manager on premises during open hours, failed to produce records, and furnished false information to the DLC inspector. I'm prepared to leave that one out for now until we get some more explanation from the business owner and hopefully from DLC about ongoing oversight of that business. So, it sounds like that's what the rest of the board's interested in doing too.
Well, I
very
dug
much
that page
so.
for a reason.
Right.
Yeah.
So, any other comments or questions or suggestions or anything from anybody on the board? Is there anybody in attendance who wants to speak to issues relating to the liquor license renewals? Cassandra?
I just wanted to share that the Indo-American Grocery, Putney Road Market, and Wyndham Wines all did attend responsible beverage service trainings. I can't say if the Indo-American had done it after or before, but I do know that both of the other 2 businesses did come right after and attended those meetings. So I just wanted to share that. Those are the only ones out of those violations, though.
Anybody else want to speak to the liquor license matter? Then I guess we're ready for a motion.
I'll let John do it.
Well, I already made my glasses. So, I got it. Motion to approve for renewal the list of establishments currently possessing liquor licenses, outside consumption permits, and entertainment licenses as presented with the town clerk's memorandum dated February 5th, 2015, and subject to the conditions that each establishment file a complete application and receive approval from the State Liquor Control Board.
And do you want to include the whole list or you want to take any of them off?
I would like to omit Vermont Asian Gourmet. And then what do
You
we,
can do the other if you want.
and, well, the other one, just because, yeah, and then Milagros, because they are no longer in business.
All right, so we have a motion to approve all of the establishments on the list presented by the town clerk, with the exception of Vermont Asian Gourmet and Milagros, on the condition that they file complete applications and receive approval from the State Liquor Control Board. Is there any further discussion?
Do we need to add in there that we would like Vermont Asian to come before us? And I don't know if that needs to be in the motion or not.
I don't think that needs to be in the motion.
Okay.
As additional discussion item, we would invite Vermont Asian Gourmet to attend the next select board meeting. And we would also ask whether either a DLC representative can attend or can provide information to the town clerk or the town manager, explaining their response to these violations and what, if any, corrective action has been taken. I mean, the violations are old, April and May of last year, but there's a lot. So we invite them back, but we want some additional information. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed or abstaining? That carries 3-0. Is there anything further on the Liquor Commissioner's agenda? Hearing none, we're ready for motion to adjourn as liquor commissioners.
So moved.
We have a motion to adjourn as liquor commissioners. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed or abstaining? That carries 3-0.
Poor Kate's freezing.
It's cold in here.
Well, Kate can't hear that well, but I want to turn the heater back on because
But then I
we'll
can't
have to talk louder.
Well, it's the people over there that.
Well, you're going to freeze. Thank you. Honeywell.
All right, thank you, Honeywell. So the next matter is under unfinished business,
That's not that bad.
pay-as-you-throw implementation. At our last select board meeting, seems like it was just yesterday, Thursday, the 12th of February, we had an hour and a half presentation and discussion about pay-as-you-throw implementation. And at that meeting, after a series of discussion items, we were asked to come back to this meeting and to vote on a series of motions to move forward with the pay-as-you-throw process. So before we go into these motions one at a time, I want to inquire whether there's anybody who's got any updated information for the board or any additional questions or comments about the pay-as-you-throw transition process. Peter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have some updated information which is related to item number 6 in the series of possible motions that have been presented for your consideration this evening. 6 appears as you could do this, or you could do that, or you could do a third option item because it relates to the public education and enforcement portion about which you had quite a lot of discussion and needed some additional information in order to make a decision regarding the possibility of either doing that work with Waste Zero or doing that work with Moss Kaler or doing that work with some combination of the two. There has been communication that's gone on since Thursday's meeting between Moss and the Waste Zero representatives. Moss may want to speak to this himself. The Waste Zero representative was not able to be physically present tonight, but will be, I believe, 2 weeks from tonight. But that communication that they've had during the weekend has been positive, and they are both confident that they can together bring you a third alternative. So you have a proposal from Moss, you have a proposal, a portion of the 3-part proposal that we received from Waste Zero, and there will be a third alternative that would show how they would collaborate together to accomplish the public education and enforcement. They're working on that, and we would expect it to be ready to be presented to you for the March 3rd meeting. So for this evening, we would ask that you defer any further consideration of that item to the March 3rd meeting.
Excellent. Well, that's a good thing, because education is one part, but enforcement's another part.
Right.
And some of it may be effectively handled through one and some through the others. Kate?
I just want to clarify something. And I know there's an issue of, Moss being paid retroactively, but we're also talking going forward. And right now, we don't have a contract. So I need to figure out that there's no payment going forward over the next 2 weeks. That's my opinion, because we have no contract going forward. I don't mean, it's like a dicey subject I'm bringing up, but I just don't want this, because we're being asked to do something retroactively, which I
Right.
haven't decided whether it's the
understand.
right thing to do. But if we keep going, we're getting more retroactive,
Right.
because that hinges on some of this.
I think some of this may properly be executive session related discussion, so I wanna just urge caution in the matters that are gonna be discussed in open session now. I absolutely understand the point you're raising and think it's properly discussed but I just want to urge caution
No, I get it.
at this moment in
Right.
time.
It's just one of the proposals in number 6,
Right.
or all of them in number 6 lead to what I just said.
Totally,
So
and
it's
we're
something-
not going to act on number 6 tonight in
Right.
any form or fashion.
Right, but if we don't act on number 6, we have to make a decision about going forward. We can't, there's 2 weeks before we're going to decide, so there's this 2-week zone that we have to figure out what we're doing.
I don't like speaking in code.
All right, I don't-
It's
but,
okay.
you know what I mean?
I'm going to do my best to explain it right now, if I could. Is that okay?
Oh,
I don't
yeah, I'm
wanna-
just trying to explain it what I'm thinking.
Totally. There is currently ongoing planning work in connection with pay-as-you-throw. And there was a contract in place to reimburse Moss Kaler for that work for a period of time. And right now, the current status of his work going forward is in question. And while the issue is open for discussion and until there's a decision, the best that we can say as a town is that there's no commitment to making payment during this interim period. That's what you're saying?
Yes,
Yeah,
because we haven't even voted to do the
that's correct.
effective January 1st, so I think there just needs to be,
But that may work out in the next couple of weeks.
It
on
may
its own-
work out.
On its own. But I know what you're saying.
but I don't think we should be making assumptions because it's something we have not voted on.
I think that's best communicated to the town manager, and I think he's probably heard us. Would that be fair to say, Mr. Elwell?
Yes, and when you discuss this further and make a decision about it on the 3rd, we as staff will have advice to offer at that time about how to resolve that matter.
Very important thing that you raised, Kate. Thank you. Totally had to be dealt with. Any other comments or questions or anything else from anybody here or anybody who's in attendance at this point about the pay-as-you-throw motions or anything else about pay-as-you-throw? I would note that I heard some positive news recently about our regional collaboration involving Wyndham Solid Waste Management District and some of the issues we've been dealing with over time in terms of pricing and the way their facility is dealing with us and with the region as a whole. And hopefully that's another issue where we'll be hearing positive news over the next weeks and months. So, with nothing else being raised right now, there's a series of potential motions. And I'm just going to read them one at a time.
You go for it.
First, I move to use drawstring bags in 2 color-coded sizes, plus or minus 15 gallons and plus or minus 32 gallons, as part of Brattleboro's implementation of the pay-as-you-throw system. Oh, I'm also going to note that the VLCT News letter that came out, oh no, I'm sorry, it was the VLCT legislative news that came out on Friday indicated that there's a series of municipalities across the state that are trying to push back on implementation of pay-as-you-throw by July 1 because they think it's too onerous. But we're ready. We're ready. And we're going forward.
One more little road bump.
But there is apparently
Ajay,
the
what do you
potential.
think?
There is apparently the potential for some legislation out of Montpelier to delay the process.
Of course, there is.
So, is there any discussion about, as part of the program, using drawstring bags 15 and 32 gallons, 2 colors? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I then move that as part of the pay-as-you-throw program, that the town of Brattleboro set the price of small-sized bags at $2 a bag and the price of large bags at $3 a bag. Is there any discussion or comment from the board or anybody who's in attendance? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I move that the town sell individual bags at the treasurer's office in the municipal center and at the Recreation and Parks Department office in the Gibson-Aiken Center. Is there any discussion or comment from the board or anybody who's in attendance? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That carries 3-0.
Somebody said no.
I move to authorize the town manager to enter into a one-year contract with Waste Zero of Raleigh, North Carolina to supply drawstring bags in 2 sizes as set forth in Waste Zero's bid response dated November 26, 2014, and as authorized as in the first 2 motions. Is there any discussion?
Why not think about this?
Well, tell me if you do, because we need 3 votes.
No.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. I move to contract with Waste Zero for retail inventory distribution and invoicing services as set forth in option B of Waste Zero's bid response dated November 26, 2014, and to authorize the town manager to enter into that contract with Waste Zero. Is there any discussion from anybody on the board? Is anybody who's in attendance? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. And then I move to authorize expenditure of $24,950 to implement parallel collection as required by Act 148. $9,100 for Orbis compost carts. With the understanding that the cost will be offset by savings in other parts of the town's FY15 general fund budget.
So there's no.
We left out the education section of the proposed motion. Is there any discussion or comment or questions from anybody on the board or anybody who's in attendance? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed or abstained? Well, I guess there isn't anybody. That carries 3-0. So we've now adopted 6 motions that set forth the outlines of the pay-as-you-throw program, leaving a couple items to be discussed going forward. I've read through the ordinance in very exacting detail, and I have some questions, and so I'm going to give my comments to the town manager. And before we have the first reading, hopefully those things can be addressed one way or another as well. And if anybody else is going to read through the ordinance, propose changes to the ordinance, and if you have any changes, please give those to the town manager. Okay? Anything further about pay-as-you-throw? Moss?
I just wanted to hand out, over these past number of days and weeks, I've been working on updating. We had a guide that we've used over the years, similar to this. It was updated, Jane, a couple of years ago, but it has not been updated since the curbside compost program. And so I've worked on that, updating that to include the curbside compost and also the pay-as-you-throw program. And so whether this gets bundled with Waste Zero information, this is encompasses information that's very specific to Brattleboro in terms of the Wyndham Solid Waste District, our curbside program, our currently dual stream recycling program. And so I think that this is very likely a pamphlet that will get mailed out, and I've made enough copies. I just did this on my copier at home, so when this gets printed for a mailing or however it might be distributed, it'll probably be a little on better stock and maybe a little sharper, but this would give everybody a pretty good idea of what's in there. I invite everybody to take a look at it, and if they see any inaccuracies or comments, I would welcome them.
Thank you, Moss.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks. Anything else about pay-as-you-throw? Jane?
Years ago, there was a solid waste committee, and the solid waste committee worked very closely with representatives from the solid waste district, and the first iteration of this booklet came out of the solid waste committee. So I just want to remind people that there's a long history of collaboration. A lot of volunteers have put in a lot of time gathering the information, putting it together, and Moss has done a tremendous amount of work over the years, gathering information, helping the committee, and so I want to recognize that.
Thank you. Anything else about pay-as-you-throw? Next matter on the agenda is to address the proposed charter amendments. I want to begin by speaking briefly about how we got here and what's on for decision tonight. By a petition or a series of petitions, a number of proposals to amend Brattleboro's charter are on the ballot for March 3rd. We had 2 public hearings as required by law with respect to those proposed charter amendments, and the board has considered taking a public position about some of those proposed charter amendments. We asked the town manager to speak with us a little bit about how we would go about distributing that information about the proposed charter amendments. And I wound up preparing an information sheet about the proposed charter amendments that was reviewed briefly at our last meeting and was circulated. I have made a number of small changes based upon some additional information that I've gotten over the course of the last weeks. When we asked the town manager about how we would distribute or could distribute that, he recommended, one, we could consider distributing it to the press for publication, and that we could talk to the radio stations as well. And second, that we could consider doing a mailing to all households in town. Although I've seen some press coverage suggesting that the board had previously decided that it wanted to mail out the information sheet to all households in town. That's inaccurate. We have that as an option. We discussed it briefly at the last meeting and discussed some of the pros and cons of proceeding that way. But there's never been a decision or an expression of intent by the board, or I think anybody on the board, to engage in that mailing. We'll have a little bit of discussion about that tonight, but I don't really think that there's even a majority or any votes in favor of that at this point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to distribute the current draft of a proposed Brattleboro Charter Amendment information sheet. And I've got about 10 copies here, so I'm going to just hand it across the table, and Jan will have a copy. And what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to read this out loud. And after reading it out loud, there's going to be a motion about the board endorsing it.
Is this different than what's
This
in
is
the
different
packet?
from what's in the binder, a little bit different. And what I can say is that the primary difference between this information sheet and the one that previously was distributed, besides a little bit of wording change, is that I've added some language that summarizes some of the things that I've read in letters to the editor recently about the changes and the impact that would have on town meeting. So this is called the Proposed Brattleboro Charter Amendment Information Sheet. Proposed amendments to Brattleboro's charter are on the March 3, 2015 ballot. The Brattleboro Selectboard asks you to consider the following when voting. Town meeting term limits. Brattleboro's town meeting is both participatory and representative democracy. Up to 155 residents get elected and gather annually to make budget and policy decisions for the town. It's anti-democratic to ban Brattleboro residents from town meeting because they've attended 6 years in a row. Term limits would bar many residents who now attend town meeting, and the institutional memory they bring with them would be lost. Right now, there are 25 open town meeting slots, so anyone interested in joining already can. Term limits actually could empty out town meeting, so there would not even be a quorum. Voting on the first Tuesday in November. Town elections in Vermont are in March and are distinct from national and state elections. The proposal to move elections and ballot items to a different cycle than town meeting would damage the link between these important parts of government and leave Brattleboro out of step with the rest of Vermont. Also, the ballot proposal would move elections to the first Tuesday in November, which is not national or state election day. Paid time off for our elections. The ballot proposal to require employers to give paid time off is not tied to Brattleboro town meetings, so it also would mandate Brattleboro employers to pay employees to attend town meetings in other towns and states. Brattleboro residents already face very steep property taxes because the town provides infrastructure and services to support the economy for the whole region, but the town can't collect taxes to support these services from people who work and shop here. The proposal for paid time off now also would force Brattleboro employers to support town meetings for the whole region. Town grand juror. The role of the town grand juror under Vermont law is to recommend prosecution of offenses to authorized officials. The grand juror position is essentially obsolete in this modern era because enforcement of laws and ordinances is handled by other elected officials in clear structures. Proposed referendum, ordinance, and initiative charter changes. The proposal to change the charter's current referendum system seeks to shift decision-making away from the town meeting model, which encourages collective discussion and consideration of issues, to a ballot system that only allows up or down votes on questions. Town meeting makes many important decisions, and setting separate rules for voter review of budget items over $2 million is confusing and arbitrary. The proposal to remove the words representative and general from the charter's ordinance and initiative sections do not fit with the structure of the charter and also would cause confusion. While it is claimed that the amendments would restore free speech, recent charter changes actually lowered the number of signatures needed on a petition, and there is nothing to show that the charter as it stands discourages ballot items. Structure of charter amendment proposals. The proposed charter amendments are grouped together on the March 3 ballot and can only be voted up or down in groups. Voters should carefully consider all proposals in each ballot item and remember that a vote to approve either group of amendments is a vote in favor of all of its parts. So, I move that the Brattleboro Select Board endorse the proposed Brattleboro Charter Amendment information sheet and authorize its distribution to media outlets in the Brattleboro area.
Can I offer one suggestion?
Yes, please.
And it's going to seem like redundant, but I almost think on the bottom, I know we say Brattleboro Select Board as you consider filling, but can we put on the bottom like prepared by the Brattleboro Select Board? You know, to make it really clear.
We can.
I know that sounds stupid, but, and I don't know if we want to list our names or what, but make it so there's no question that we actually did it.
I want to be clear that I inquired of the town manager whether there are any campaign disclosure requirements associated with this, and if we're spending more than $500 on anything, then we have to include paid for by.
Right.
But that's not what's happening here.
Yeah.
I certainly can add in the footer of this
Yeah.
document before I get it to Jan at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning for distribution, prepared by the Brattleboro Select Board.
Because
Totally.
it doesn't say, you know what I mean?
What I'll do is I'll write prepared and endorsed.
Yes.
Prepared and endorsed by the Brattleboro Select Board. Are there any other questions or comments or suggestions? The other thing that we're going to do is we will make copies available to anybody who wants them for distribution, maybe on, yellow or orange or, bright colored paper. So that's also something that'll do if anybody wants copies of these for distribution or for informational purposes. Is there any discussion? Howard?
Will these be distributed at the polls, or is that not allowed?
There's distance requirements,
Right.
so we could hand them out beyond the spatial limitations.
You can.
I think we could.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you have to be so many feet away from,
You know where you have the people standing a
Right.
certain far away?
with signs or whatever. That changed in the last That changed in the last 3 or 4 years.
We'll confirm with Annette.
But we can't do it at the polls.
And obviously, we can't make them available in town clerk's office because that's too close to early voting. I thought about whether we could make them available at town clerk's office, but people be early voting at those same locations, so we won't be doing that either. And of course, electioneering becomes more difficult now because there's both front and back entrance to town hall, and I'm not sure where to stand on March 3rd now that I think about it.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
It's here.
Any other questions or comments? So there's a motion to endorse the information sheet and to make it available to media outlets. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed or abstaining? That carries 3-0. Thank you, everybody, for your work on that. The next matter on the agenda is now under new business, FY14 audits. Peter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is an informational item. It requires no action by the Select Board this evening, but it's an opportunity to thank John O'Connor and also the rest of the management team and the rest of the Finance Department team for the fine work that they do. This is the 3rd year in a row that the single audit has come back clean, and also the general audit of the town has come back completely clean. So the single audit is what checks our work on all of the documentation related to the various grants that are administered by the town. And the general audit, of course, is the auditor's review of the town's internal controls and the books. And it's really a testament to the attention to detail that John provides and the leadership that he provides, that our auditors are coming back with such completely approving findings of the work that's being done by the Finance Department team. So I want to thank John this evening, and I wanted to just bring these to the board in case you have any questions that you'd like to ask about them, but they don't require formal action by the board.
Oh, another shout out. I mean, I don't normally read through all these, but I did, and excellent work. But having come back that clean is nice.
Well, thank you very much, everyone. The credit really has to go to my staff, though. I mean, I could not do this alone. And we've got a great finance team, and it shows, and this is where it shows. So we're really lucky to have the staff we have, and I'm really lucky to have them working with me. So thank you very much, though.
Because that's a tough team that goes through this. The budget, they're tough.
They are thorough.
They're thorough.
And not every town gets clean audit findings like we saw in the newspaper.
That's for sure.
Excellent. Any comments, questions, anything from anybody who's in attendance? Thank you, John. And thank you, Peter. So the next matter on the agenda is the financial report. And we'll turn that right over to John.
Favorite part.
Thank you, David. This is the financial report for the year through January 31st. So we're 7 months into the fiscal year, 58.3% of the way through the fiscal year. After making adjustments for debt service payments, insurance payments, and the annual human service payments, prorating those items, the general fund expenditures would be at 55.9%. So below where we would expect to be at this point in the year. The utilities fund was at 60.9%. Parking fund expenditures were 55% of their budget. And the budget overrun in utilities is primarily due to bond payments, which again come twice a year, and the repair to the outfall pipe, which was not budgeted. Police and fire facilities fund reflected expenditures of $18,818 through January. The loan report shows that we had $4,080,405 in outstanding loans as of the end of January. 2 of the loans had payments that were overdue, and 2 loans are in default, but they're fully reserved for. Program income. That report shows that we have $430,149 that's available for grants and loans that the town makes for various programs. And then finally, the grant report shows that we have 43 active grants and 9 grants in the application process as of the end of January. So,
Just one quick question, John.
Yeah.
On the overdue one, I mean, is that,
we have one that's pretty significantly overdue.
yeah,
And we have been in contact with them. They're frankly not in best financial shape at this point, but we will keep working on that. And if we need to, we'll at least set up a reserve for it. But we will try to do what we can to get that up to date, or at least a little bit closer, because it just keeps getting behind
right.
every month. It's a month later.
We should note in that regard that Carbon Harvest is listed as bankrupt on the list, but no, we're actually in bankruptcy proceedings seeking to recover from them. But we've just received notice, and I believe that it's public record because it was discussed in a public setting. Am I correct that it's public? You know what I'm talking about? There's an entity that is in the process of purchasing the Carbon Harvest facilities.
Right.
And I believe that's public record as of last week because I got notice of the Act 250 proceedings, or the state regulatory proceedings, and it's a private capital firm or some sort of firm that's planning to begin operation of the propane generation facilities up there at what used to be Carbon Harvest. And we are potentially looking at an increase in the grant list, I think in the range of $6 or $8 million for those facilities once they're put back into action when the equipment is purchased from what's the entity that owns them now? That took them over when the bankruptcy happened?
That would likely be Vita.
Vita, Vermont Economic Development Agency. And I believe that there's a contract in place for the purchase of that. Mike, you were shaking your head, yeah? Did I see that?
Heard the same thing.
Yeah. So we're looking forward to, although we still have a claim against Carbon Harvest in the bankruptcy proceeding, it may be that equipment's going to be up and running and at least contributing in a productive way to the tax base.
Patrick, does the district have anything to do with that at all?
Well,
I thought there was some
it's
discussion.
situated at the district, and I know the district has an interest in their operations similar to ours, but
I thought it was discussed at one of the meetings that I was at about Carbon Harvest, and somebody was interested in things we're looking.
I've been hearing it discussed there as well.
Yeah, okay.
Anything else? John, thanks for that report. The next matter on the agenda is the Library Board of Trustees appointment. Peter, if you could explain this, because I know we also act on it at town meeting.
That's right. So the Select Board's action is to join the Library Board of Trustees in making a recommendation to town meeting to actually, at town meeting, the representatives will actually make the appointments. And what you have before you this evening is the recommendation that has been made by the Library Board of Trustees to nominate Susan Troy, a Brattleboro resident, for nomination for a 3-year trustee seat. I believe you previously have forwarded the other 2 names. Is that correct, Mr. Goldberg?
The 3 names, Peter.
The other 3 names, right. So actually, if you would speak to the details,
We have recently, as of a week ago, brought to the board at large and voted by the board to have Susan Troy join our board. We just recruited her from this latest recruitment process. She is a Brattleboro resident of long standing, has a majorly wonderful career in health and young people's health. She's been a school nurse for years. She's currently a case manager at the Brattleboro Retreat. Many of you may know her. I'm sure if you saw her, you would recognize her as being part of this community for a long time. The other three names on the list are already seated members of the board whose names have, because they're going to be taking over new terms of office, if you will, they're segueing from the current status into another term. That would be Adam Franklin Lyons, who's at Marlborough College, Robert Stack, who's a retired Brattleboro Retreat employee, who's been on the board now for about a year, and the name Deborah Lovey-Reyes, who we brought on several months ago, and her name has not yet gone before the town meeting. So those are the four names that we asked the select board to consider reading before the town representatives.
All right, so we're ready. We'll look for a motion using all the language that's in the Select Board Administrative Memo, but also please add Deborah Lovey-Reyes for a term ending when for Deborah?
I think 2 years from now.
All right, so Deborah Lovey-Reyes for a term ending...
It's in the warning, I'm not sure.
We'll say for a term ending March 2017.
Yes, and that is correct. That's what's in the warning.
All right. Somebody want to make that motion?
Sure. To approve the nomination of Adam Franklin Lyons and Robert Stack as set forth in Article 12 of the warning for the representative town meeting to be held on March 21st, 2015. And Susan Troy as set forth in the memorandum dated February 4th, 2015 from the Library Board of Trustees to fill 3-year seats, 2015 to 2018, on the Brooks Memorial Library Board of Trustees, and to add Deborah Lovey-Reyes, is that correct? With her term ending on March 2017.
As reflected in the town meeting warning.
As reflected in the town meeting warning.
Thank you.
We have a motion to approve nominations of those four people as library trustees. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed or abstaining? That carries 3-0. Next matter on the agenda is the town road and bridge standards. Hi, Hannah. And you're here for both this item and the next item, which is the Western Avenue Union Hill intersection upgrade. Is that fair to say?
That's correct.
So you want to talk with us, please, about the town road and bridge standards? Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Hannah O'Connell. I'm the Highway Utility Superintendent for the Department of Public Works. And this evening, I'm here first to talk about the certification of compliance for the town road and bridge standards. Annually, the Vermont Agency of Transportation asks the select board or governing agency to sign that we have in fact adopted the standards that they upgrade every couple of years. The last one was done in January of 2013. And what the standards are set for is it's a baseline construction standard to ensure that hopefully our roads and bridges will hold up better during storms, rain events, that type of thing. It's mostly drainage standards, erosion controls, that kind of things. And we support the endorsement, and we have accepted these every year. By accepting these, it means that we get more funding from FEMA in the event of a disaster, and it also means that the state will give us more money towards structures grants. It goes from a 80-20% share to 90-10.
So, Hannah, they haven't checked out the bridges or our roads. I mean, we're just signing the certificate to be able to apply for grants, and so they haven't come down and physically looked at any of this stuff.
What it means is that as we do construction, this isn't to upgrade everything in the town of Brattleboro to meet all the current construction standards. It means that when we do upgrades, when we do our drainage work, install new culverts, that we do install them to meet these standards. And they will and have and can come down and check in on us, and sometimes they have some really helpful insight for us, and
But it
So
also
we-
gives us the ability to get grant money and
More grant money.
more grant money. Right.
It doesn't always lead to everybody being happy with the construction either. I
Oh.
bet that it was the new standards that led to the guardrails
Right.
near, what's the name of the one on William Street, being way higher. And what's the name of that?
Whetstone Village.
Whetstone Village.
Right.
And the people coming out of Whetstone Village now can't see the left when they come down their driveway. But the bridge and the guardrail is safer for pedestrians. That's an example of the new standards?
Yes.
Yeah, I really like that.
Stayed away from that one.
Can I ask a question? When I was reading through the Public Works memo, one thing was new to me. Maybe I didn't read the last one as carefully as I should have, but there was reference to a South Main Street washout. I don't remember that. What is that South Main Street washout that was referenced?
In 2013, actually it was early September, it might have been September 11th, there was a substantial rainstorm. It was the rainstorm that washed out the Elliott Street Bridge. During that rainstorm, the water collected on South Main Street and washed down behind it's 386 South Main
Oh, yeah.
and down to the Morningside Cemetery.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So there's some work that needs to go on to shore that up at this point still.
We did a temporary stabilization there that'll hold it for a little while, but it definitely needs a permanent solution.
All right. Any other questions about the road and bridge compliance certificate? We're ready for motion.
I move that we approve the certification of compliance for town, road, and bridge standards.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed or abstaining?
Oh, I said
That
aye.
carries 3-0. So the next matter on the agenda is the Union Hill Western Avenue construction financing discussion. So Hannah, I see you've brought the setup, and you're going to provide an overview of the work that's being done, probably because I asked for that to happen. But if we could start by explaining the financing issue that's arisen, because that's why it's on the agenda. I don't know if the two of you want to speak to it, or if you want to speak to it, whatever you want to do.
I'll make a quick overview, and I think Hannah should provide the details, but for reasons that Hannah will describe, the cost of the project is now estimated to be higher than what was originally estimated, and the grant funds that the town obtained are not sufficient to cover the construction cost. They have provided for the design that's been upgraded and get us ready to go to construction on the project. We've had an opportunity, Steve Barrett and Hannah and I, to sit down and review the 4 options that are identified in your backup tonight. And each one of those is less desirable, in my opinion, and our collective opinion, and in terms of our staff recommendation, than the one that, option 3, that we're recommending to you. Each one of the others is less desirable, either because it requires the town to redirect more cash towards this project, or for other reasons. You know, a further delay in the implementation of the project, it's needed for safety and so on. So on the financial side, we think that the best way forward is to construct the project using town forces, supplemented by contractual and by purchasing the supplies that are necessary. As far as the actual method of moving forward and what the improvement will provide for safety, I'd turn it over to Hannah.
Exactly. Thanks, Peter.
Sure.
Okay, so in January of 2013, we were awarded a grant from the Vermont Agency of Transportation, Local Transportation Facilities group. The total grant was in the amount of $70,000, and that includes a 10% town match. That was for both the design and the construction of safety improvements at the Union Street with Western Avenue intersection. moving through the process, although we'd already done some preliminary concept engineering, we did go out to bid for actual construction documents and design. We contracted with a group called Holden Engineering, and their contract is in the amount of $28,656.40. They have been great to work with. They've been very responsible and responsive. And in that time, they worked with the public as required by the grant. We held several public meetings to gather input about what the public would like to see. We worked with the Traffic Safety Committee pretty extensively. We've been here a couple times, as recently as last summer. And as required by the grant, they had to be kind of responsive to the public concerns and what the public wanted to see. So although they knew that we had a very limited budget on this project, you know, there was some things that were designed in response to what everybody wanted. So unfortunately, in this day and time, $40,000, which is about the remaining balance of the grant, doesn't build much in the ways of construction. This is a very complicated intersection with the grades, the roads coming in. It's a Class 1 town highway that adds some complications. So some of our improvement choices were relatively limited on what we could do. The cost is also a little bit more than we anticipated, as we've started this project almost 10 years ago in 2006, and now here we are in 2015 getting ready to build it, and prices just go up. So here we are. The current construction estimate, if we move forward with as proposed by the design engineer, is estimated at $79,629.28. And it's a lot of money. If we move forward with having that contracted out, we would also have to have a contracted engineer on site to perform construction inspection and oversight. That's required by the grant. They do materials testing, that kind of thing. That leaves us with a shortfall of about $53,000. At this point in time, Steve and I have worked extensively with V-Trans to develop a number of options in moving forward. And would you prefer that I present the options, or would you like to see what we're doing first?
I think either one, whatever makes sense to you.
Okay, well, I'll go through the options and then we'll kind of go through what we're looking at doing. So one option is to, if we move forward with the grant as it is right now, we can continue to, we can go with the design. We can have V-Trans fund the construction up to the total amount of $70,000. There is a little bit of flexibility in some items. We might be able to help out with traffic control, maybe some message boards that we have on hand, but it would still leave us with a substantial shortfall of around $40,000. The second option would be to reapply for more funding to supplement the existing funding through the same program. Unfortunately, it wouldn't even be awarded until August. We have been told that we wouldn't be able to start the project now and then apply the funding. We would have to put it all out to bid once we got the award. So that would really substantially set us back. With the bidding regulations within the grant, we have to be out to bid for a certain amount of time and go through the review process of all the contractors. It may very well put us into the 2016 construction season, and we're pretty eager to see this done. The third option, which is the one that we're recommending, is to move forward in constructing this with our forces, our crews, our equipment. We have a lot of materials on hand. We always keep our granite curbing when we take it off of projects for cases just like this. We would need some out-of-pocket costs for equipment or expertise that we just don't possess, minor paving, that kind of thing. And we estimate that for under $15,000, we could accomplish that using our crews, barring continued snow. We would hope to get this done in the same time as our line striping so that we can do all of that at once. And then the last option, which I'll mention, it's very, very unlikely we can do this on what VTrans refers to as a force account basis. And what it means is they would reimburse us for construction costs if we built it. VTrans has not ever seen that approved because this is partially federal highway funding and federal highway would have to approve it. They like to see this type of job go through a competitive bidding process. So those are our 4 options.
Can we discuss those, or?
Yeah.
Or do you want to move?
No, I want to talk about these first, because is it fair to say, Hannah, that the rest of your presentation is just once again to present the design to the board and to the public so that we remember the proposal that's been made?
Yes.
All right. So I'm then going to ask Peter to explain how we went about weighing these 4 options.
Sure.
And why the recommendation is to do it in-house.
Sure. Let me work to the recommendation by eliminating the other 3. The last one was easy for us to eliminate because of the impracticality of it, the unlikely success of it. So we didn't give serious consideration to that, but it was important that if we identify it as something we could do if we wanted to take a chance on possibly being approved for something that is legal and proper, but not often approved by the granting authorities. So we said, no, that's not the best way forward. Likewise, the one that would go back to the same source of funds and see if we could get the additional funding necessary in order to construct this, for the reason that Hannah identified during her presentation. This is a project that has taken a little longer to get to the starting line than anybody would have hoped, and it's needed to provide safety to pedestrians at a challenging location in town. And so we thought that the possibility, pursuing that option while it's financially desirable, the possibility that it might cause yet another year's delay in implementing the project made that less desirable than the other 2 options. Leaving us then with either finding approximately $40,000 to be able to move forward under the grant and do this through bid construction, contracted construction, or approximately $15,000 out-of-pocket cost to do this with the town's own forces. And because it is a relatively small job that we can complete relatively quickly with some materials that are on hand, that just made the most sense to us. That it's not always the best course of action. It does have an opportunity cost to it. There's work that these employees would be doing elsewhere on town roads if they weren't doing this project at that time. But given the ability to save $25,000 and utilize our own forces and our own supplies, it felt like the most responsible way to proceed.
And we will remember that besides the fact that it's how far across that intersection, east-west?
About 80 feet.
I thought it was 80 feet, and I said that, and then it seemed wrong. So it's 80 feet going east-west on the south side of Western Ave. And it's way too long for people safely to cross, and kids cross there to go to school all the time, and cars drop down way quickly going eastbound and dropping down the hill. But we also had a hit-and-run fatality up there last fall, and it really would be prudent to make some improvements there, make some tangible progress sooner rather than later.
I think the worst situation is coming up Union Hill and turning right, because you have the tendency to look left to see if there's cars coming, and then you say, oh, I'm good to go. And I've caught myself a couple of times with a pedestrian in the crosswalk. And, you know, you look and it's right there quickly. But I do have some questions about number 1 versus number 3.
Go ahead.
So, I'm always cognizant of overtime and of how, if we get into a situation where there's an emergency somewhere else in town and we can't complete this, you know, in a expeditious manner, you know, that I worry about that, you know, that I would love to use in-house, but for me, I like the option of number 1 because, for one thing, it's, and I know it's not easy to say, but it's only $25,000, but it gets it done. It gets it done. I think, I don't know, and I could be wrong, quicker. It may not, but it seems like because they're ready to go with this, and this seems like a perfect spot for the unassigned reserve fund, you know, because it's a one-time thing. We didn't expect it. And Peter, you're looking at me like, oh, he's dipping into the unassigned reserve fund again.
No, not at all.
So,
may I though?
Please, go ahead. Yeah.
So those are my concerns, because, and again, I know that we have great plans and, you know, the best laid plans of mice and men, but I can see a problem, I can just see a problem arising, that we have our staff there and they're ready to go, and then something else happens somewhere else and we've got to pull off, and then what do we do? You know?
Sure. I can't help you sleep better at night on that question.
I sleep anyways, great, so it doesn't.
Good. Could something else happen in town that required these same employees to go and deal with a more urgent situation? It could, although that would have to really be a significant emergency of some sort, because once we've got the road
closed off.
When it's closed to traffic and opened up for construction, we're going to move as promptly as possible to get it fixed. And it's not a long construction duration, a couple of weeks.
We were expecting, with a crew of only 4, you know, at a minimum, to be 4 weeks.
4 weeks, okay. So that is a risk. We think it's a manageable risk, but it's a risk. I can't alleviate that. On the question of the use of the fund balance, I actually, this is a responsible use of fund balance. It is a unexpected additional expense for the town. It would be an appropriate place. It is a capital investment. It's a one-time cost. It's on the list that we created, what I recommended to you and you've approved in terms of the 4 different potential uses. So if town meeting does approve that warning item, we'd be able to use it for this purpose. The reason I'm recommending with Public Works that we do this with our own team instead is we can't do some of the other things that need to be done. The other 3 options on that list of other appropriate uses for the unassigned fund balance. There are other things that are unexpected and urgent needs for the town that we can't accomplish with our own employees. This is a project we can accomplish at a very low cost with our own employees, and so we think we should.
I'm going to ask if there's further inquiry now. All right, then, Hannah, what I'll ask you to do, please, is just to present again the design elements. The question is going to be, John, whether we're going to take a vote tonight or we're going to wait.
Oh, no, it was a concern.
It's due diligence, but if you're not comfortable, I'll wait.
I'm very comfortable, so it's not a problem. I just wanted to hear a good reason why.
Thank you.
Sorry, this is waking up a little bit.
Do you need lights off, Anna?
We can't because of the interpreters.
Oh, well, we can keep those lights on. You can't do it in the dark?
Hopefully, is that a little
So we
bit
have
brighter?
the camera, do we have the camera focused on the board so the people on TV?
It's actually linked in through It's directly.
It's
That's what
going
all
right to
this.
BCTV?
Yes.
Yeah.
Really? Because I can still see myself. Hi.
There it is.
There we go. Okay. Sorry.
He's been skiing too much. Too much cold air.
All right, Hannah.
So these are a set of plans that I did some coloring on. They're the ones that we actually presented back at our July 2014 meeting, but they were already all colored up, so I figured I'd use them. We have, in the meantime, developed an extensive, very long set of construction plans that are very, very detailed and maybe a little bit harder to read than these, so I wanted to use these tonight. So in green, I've tried to highlight what is the existing conditions. As you can see, this is very wide. I'm gonna try to stand out of the way here. The crosswalk across Union Hill as existing is 80 feet wide, as David stated. That's very long ways for pedestrians to travel, especially children going to school. The cross slope at this time is way out of compliance with ADA standards. It's hard for anybody pushing a stroller, I know that personally. Right now, because people stop so far back, there's some serious sight distance issues. People kind of like pull up, they're stopped in the crosswalk. The existing crosswalk is right where
there.
people turn out, and it's right there.
Right there.
I know that our very brave crossing guard that's there every day.
David.
I don't know how he does it, but he comments to us often that it's a problem. So we're bumping that out. And honestly, the intersection is just poorly defined. People traveling easterly on Western Avenue, turning down Union Hill, it's often used as a off-ramp instead of slowing down and turning in an intersection.
It's an awful spot. It's just an awful spot. It
Any
really
other-
is. There's too much going on there.
Any questions before I move on? Okay, now in orange, these are the proposed changes we're gonna make. So what we're gonna try to do is take Union Hill and square it up with Western Avenue. We're gonna narrow that up substantially, taking it down to the same width as Cedar Street, right across the street. We're also going to bump the intersection in a northerly direction so that people aren't staging on the hill anymore when they're stopped, that they're staging on a little bit of a flatter area. That's gonna like prevent people from like really, stepping on the throttle to get out of that intersection. Let's see, what else? We're gonna have some increased green space. That's gonna minimize our impervious space. It's great for all our drainage and stormwater. We are going to put these bump outs in so that we're actually narrowing up the Western Avenue crossing as well. And this crosswalk is being moved about 20 feet in an easterly direction, which doesn't really sound like a lot, but it's enough to just get people out of that intersection, out of that turning radius. The center line of Western Avenue is going to be shifted north. That's going to be a very gradual change, over a quarter mile or so with the line straightening. And I think that's about it for now.
So Hannah, and I just thought of this, there's two houses on that hill. Right?
On this side?
On that side.
Correct.
Are they going to be affected, or they're going to have bigger driveways now?
They are going to have a little bit longer driveways. That's
and
correct.
so they're going to have some green space in front of their house, right?
That's right.
That's where it's going to be.
Correct.
I mean, that's got to be huge for them.
So there's a couple of other changes that will result from these construction modifications. One is that it's likely to be more difficult for big vehicles to make the turn and go up and down Union Hill. And Hannah, if you can speak to that issue briefly. Also, after the construction, going from Union Hill to Cedar Street northbound is going to require probably more of a deliberate left and then right-hand turn, whereas
Right.
now you kind of can
Shoot
shoot right across
Right.
from Union Hill
Yeah.
to Cedar Street. It's going to sort of require more of a deliberate left and right movement. And Hannah, if you can speak to both of those a little bit, if you could.
One of the issues that we really looked at is truck traffic on Union Hill, bus traffic. This turn right here is difficult for a truck to make. We did very consciously design it, not we, our engineers, consciously designed it to accommodate the UPS trucks, oil delivery trucks. A tractor trailer is not going to be able to make that turn. So we looked at, again, this is an item that we looked at several different iterations of concepts, turning radii, and so this is what we kind of settled on. We looked at narrowing this up even more, but that would really eliminate the ability for emergency services and primarily oil and fuel delivery vehicles to make those turns. On David's second topic about the concern of making this maneuver, there was a lot of public conversation about that. I know at our last public meeting, which I can't remember when it was held, but it was a big topic of discussion. And we do understand that that's a big change. And again, this is an intersection that's really limited with space, keeping it within the existing right-of-way, with working with the grades we have, and it will present a challenge for the people who do that movement regularly, daily, multiple times a day. And we hope that they proceed safely.
So, Hannah, does it also address the problem of when people are going west, actually west or east, where people pass around the right-hand side if somebody's turning left down Union Hill if they're going west? Now you have the little rubber, but they take them up during the wintertime because they plow them up.
These are going to be permanent curbed bump outs, and so it will substantially narrow it up.
Narrow that down.
Preventing, I mean, if somebody's really brave and they want to, run up on the curb, they certainly can. Where there's a will, there's a way, but it will narrow the road enough that it will be, a bumpy ride.
That was always a problem. Okay, good.
Almost impossible to pass on a right after this new construction.
Great.
On Western Ave.
That's the way it should be. Super.
Is there any further inquiry or questions or comments about this? So I guess the question that's on the table is whether we want to endorse funding or doing the construction with in-house personnel and just finding the $15,000 in the budget for additional materials beyond what we already have on hand. Is that generally where people are standing?
Yep.
Then we are ready for the motion under E on the administrative memo. Howard?
I don't know if I caught this, but what was the original estimate of the project?
The grant was based on the original estimate around the $70,000 with the construction and the design engineering.
The complete arithmetic is set out in the memorandum that's in the back of it. We can give you a copy before you leave tonight.
I see the grant funding, but I didn't know that coincided with the complete estimate of the project, so thank you.
Sure.
Does that mean you're fact checking? I just checking.
We ready for motion?
Sure, go.
I move that we approve staff's recommendation to construct the Union Street Western Avenue project using in-house staff and resources at an approximate out-of-pocket cost of $15,000 from the FY15 operating budget.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed or abstaining? That carries 3-0. Thank you, Hannah.
Thanks, Hannah.
Next matter on the agenda is to approve or to consider a grant application from Vermont Department of Emergency Management, Homeland Security for Fire Department Equipment and Operations.
Mike, this is late for you.
I know it. It's my bedtime.
Mike, good to see you.
You too, sir.
How can we help you tonight?
So I'm asking for authorization from you folks to apply for a Homeland Security grant for some equipment and personal protective equipment. Some of that equipment will include a strut jack, a cutoff saw, some new high visibility jackets for staff, gloves, and some portable lighting. And the total amount of that grant would be $13,572.45.
Any questions from anybody on the board? Anybody who's in attendance? We're ready for a motion then, I expect. I move to approve submitting an application for a $13,527 Special Operations Capabilities Enhancement Grant from Vermont Department of Emergency Management and Homeland Security to pay for 25 high visibility jackets and miscellaneous safety equipment.
You forgot the 45 cents.
$13,527.45.
Makes me insane.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed or abstaining? That carries 3-0. Next matter on the agenda is an application for VCOM grant. Mike.
So we would like to apply to the Vermont Communications Grant, which again is through Homeland Security, in the amount of $7,672.80. And this would be to replace 2 mobile radios, one that's in car 1 and one that's in car 2. These are command post radios that are used to communicate with the police department. When they go to digital to their new equipment next month, these radios will no longer communicate with their new equipment, so we need to replace them, and I'd like to do it through this grant.
Any questions or comments? We're ready for a motion?
I move to approve submitting an application for $7,672.80 VCOM grant from the Vermont Department of Emergency Management and Homeland Security to purchase 2 replacement mobile radios.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed or abstaining? That carries 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Next matter on the agenda is a grant application to Department of Emergency Management and Homeland Security for Terrorism Prevention Program grant.
Wow, these guys are up late.
Gentlemen, how can we help you tonight?
Yes, sir. I'd like to request authority to apply through the Department of Emergency Management, Homeland Security, a sum of $6,125 to purchase a mobile data terminal. We currently have 3 of those down at the department, and they go inside the cruisers. It's a tough book, and it facilitates officers to stay out of the station. They can certainly do a lot of their routine reports through there, cutting down on radio traffic. They can look up data while they're actually on the scene, and it also would help augment the major crime scene investigating for the detectives, where they could go out there and have access to databases and things of that nature without having to come back to the PD.
Thank you. Can I ask are there any questions about that grant opportunity? Can I ask a couple of questions that I think it'd be nice to get some information about in general? I understand we have 2 new detectives.
Yes, sir, we do.
Maybe you'd like to announce who they are?
We have Detective Washburn and Detective Eaton that started Monday of last week.
So Greg Eaton and Ryan Washburn have moved over to Detective Division. That's nice to have now 4 detectives. We haven't had 4 detectives in a long time, as I recall.
Well over a decade.
Yep. for detectives.
Now, are we filling, we're filling their positions that they're leaving, or?
We will be seeing you here in a couple months to request permission to send people to the academy.
Right.
There are shortages down there, so they didn't create anything.
Right.
They, the manpower stays the same. We just refocused our priorities.
Yep.
And we've got one coming out of the academy and one just going in?
One is going in, and we should have another one coming off FTO in about 3 or 4 weeks. So he will be assigned to a shift and be on his own. So things are moving along nicely.
Good. And then I also saw that there was some server that crashed over the weekend, an old
Yes,
piece
sir.
of equipment, and have we been able to replace it?
It was.
And are we moving ahead?
We are. They were here this morning. They replaced it. It was a server down in our phone system. Lasted about 17 years, a lot longer than it should have. But we got a new one in, and it only affected our messages. So if I can let the citizens know, if you called over the weekend and left a message, we didn't get it. So please call back.
But it didn't impact the emergency reporting in any way?
None whatsoever. No, sir. None whatsoever.
All right. So if you left a message for the police over the weekend, call them again.
If it was a complaint, don't do it.
Anything further? We're ready for motion.
Sure. To approve submitting an application for $6,125.00 Law Enforcement Terrorism Prevention Program grant from the Vermont Department of Emergency Management and Homeland Security to purchase a mobile data terminal, associated software, and mounting hardware. I noticed I was going too fast. I'm sorry.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed or abstaining? It carries 3-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Carol's been here the whole meeting.
The whole meeting.
I hope it was interesting, I hope it was interesting. Ms. Lola.
No, we're not going to approve hers.
You're here looking to spend some of the money you've raised for a snack bar. Tell us about that, please.
All right. So as you have heard over the past several years, this has been an ongoing project. As we've raised some money, we build a little, we raise a little more money, we build a little more. One of the last items that we need to do down at West River Park is have a restroom snack bar facility. This project was a little unique when it went out to bid, so I want to make sure that you understand really what the project is that went out here. Taking that dollar and stretching it as far as we can and get the biggest bang for our buck. How we put this project out to bid was with the town would purchase the building materials and purchasing the porcelain that's needed. So what we did is we went to local vendors to say, what can you do for us? And then as part of the in-kind contribution towards the project. So really this is just this is labor and putting the slab down, and then they will put everything together. So with all that went out to bid, we received 5 bids ranging from $63,734 and no cents, John, to $74,862 and no cents. And I think that there were some pretty competitive bids, going 63, 734, 64,000 even, 68, 312, 72, 650, and 74, 862. We would like to recommend that that the bid be awarded to the low bidder, Ingram Construction, out of Swansea, New Hampshire, for $63,734. We do have when this memo was written, we had over $124,000 in the bank per se. Now we have over $132,000. Because since then, one of our three-year contributors, the last donation came in. So now we're well over $130,000 to help complete this project. Once this is completed, we have 2 other projects putting in a play structure and building up the seating area behind the softball field. So then we'll be able to say, we've met the finish, we've crossed the finish line.
Excellent.
So.
Questions?
Go ahead.
Is there a difference between Ingram and Whole Shot? Is there a difference on what they're going to do, or is it just a money difference that leads you to the first one?
Money.
Because, and I have nothing against New Hampshire, so I feel bad saying this, but somehow I like the whole Vermont local thing. But, so.
It's $300.
Yeah. That hasn't been the theme in the past, so that's where the theme in the past has been go with low bid, and that's where the recommendation came from. But we're talking about two very good vendors as far as flipping the coin in the air. It's purely going on past experience, past behavior.
Well, then let me inquire. Is there anything about the procurement guidelines that would be violated in any way by awarding to the Townsend vendor rather than the Swansea vendor? Do we know?
Go ahead, because I can't read your mind.
No, you can't. I've been looking at Patrick in the telepathy. Patrick can speak to whether we know for certain that it would be just fine to choose to use someone from Vermont at a slightly higher price, especially since it's so slightly higher. I would need to double check Vermont law, but it's common in other states that when you've been out with a bid spec package and you get competitive bids in that are all based on that one set of specifications, unless the low bidder is not qualified for some reason to perform the work, you need to award to the low bidder. And I'd be surprised if Vermont law is different, but I don't know the answer to that.
But we have in the past, we awarded.
There is an encouragement
the low bidder.
for local procurement that is explained in the procurement guidelines. To be honest, what tripped me up as I was listening to the discussion was which is more local. Swansea's not that far away, and I think Whole Shot is situated out of
Townsend.
What town? Townsend.
But it's not the distance, it's that we're the state of Vermont, and it would be really nice to give business to our own state. Now, again, I have nothing wrong with New Hampshire, anybody in New Hampshire.
My suggestion would be, if you want it explored, that you defer the matter to March 3rd, and we give you a definitive answer to the question so you can act on it at that time.
Yeah. We haven't made a motion yet. It's not going to delay construction?
They're not going to start next week.
They can't find it.
They are not going to start next week. And they probably are not going to start on March 4th either. So I think we'd be okay.
Well, then I'm sorry that we made you wait 2
Well, no,
hours.
I have a question
that's
about it,
fine.
because there's obviously plumbing work involved in that, right? Digging, is that in this?
Yeah, there's plumbing as part of this, electric as part of this, yeah.
Okay, are we hooking to the town?
We have, not to the town, because we're not tied into the town. It's too far.
It's too far away.
It's too far, but we did put in the leach field, and, we did a sewer last year.
So that's all in?
That was the sewer, yes, that we did that.
Okay.
About a year ago.
I thought so, yeah. All right.
So it would be tying into that.
We'd be just tying into that, okay.
Peter?
I'd like to ask the board, because Carol was so patient.
Oh, it's not.
Waiting all evening for the opportunity to present this, and it's a real straightforward item. The question you've asked us is a minor clarification, important substantively, but a really minor thing for us to find out and clarify to you. So if I've understood this the way I think I have, Carol wouldn't need to come back 2 weeks from now to answer anything further. You want to move forward. You want to award the bid. The only question is whether you can go to the second low bidder.
Not only that, if Carol's got something on the agenda next week,
I will have
we'll put her first.
Yeah, I do have. I will have another item.
True, actually, on the presentation.
We'll put her
You put that in the minutes, please.
You get that in writing.
You got it.
I'm doing it.
It's not a problem. It's not a problem.
It doesn't matter if it's a problem. That's our promise.
Oh, that's the promise. Okay.
Thank you.
If it's unfinished business, it does go.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then we'll put you first on new business too.
Right. Moving on up.
Thank you.
All right. No, either direction, I'd be comfortable with either vendor.
Thank you. Excellent. Next matter on the agenda is appointment of the Deputy Health Officer. Mr. Elwell.
Yes, we have 3 deputy health officers. Our health officer for the town is Assistant Fire Chief Peter Lynch, and then we have 3 other staff members who assist Assistant Chief Lynch in various capacities for different types of complaints. Kathy Barrows, as the animal officer, is one of those and handles primarily animal-related health complaints, but is able to handle others as well. She's served in this capacity for many years as part of her employment with the town. Each of the reappointment cycles is for a 3-year period, so it's simply a matter of having come due at this point, and we recommend that you recommend. The actual action taken by the board is to recommend her appointment. The state, I think, is the one that actually makes the appointment for the 3-year term.
I move to recommend that the Vermont Department of Health reappoint Kathy Barrows as Deputy Health Officer for a 3-year term ending March 2018. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? That carries 3-0. And then the last matter on the agenda is an appointment of Les Montgomery to the Basic Committee. So I have an inquiry. With absolutely no disrespect intended. There has over the years been substantial controversy about the siting of the skate park. And I think I recall that Mr. Montgomery has been sometimes right in the middle of that, although I could be wrong. And I'm wondering whether Basic has been consulted about this appointment.
I don't know the answer to that, so that might be a reason to defer this item as well, so that we can ask for Basic's input before you take action.
I don't want to disrespect anybody who's expressed interest, but I want to make sure that the dynamics on that group are going to allow effective progress going forward.
I would have thought that they would have by now, but
I just want to make sure.
Right.
I just want to make sure.
No, that's fine to defer.
All right. If the town manager can, or somebody on your behalf, just reach out to Basic, that we're all okay with this appointment, that'd be good. I think that's the last item on the agenda.
I was going to say.
And I think that there's a question whether we're reading the calendar going forward. And I think that Mr. Elwell might want to speak to that briefly, and we may not read the calendar.
You do not need to read the calendar. There's no requirement that it be read.
You guys must be ecstatic.
We're ready for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a motion to adjourn. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed or abstaining? That carries 3-0. Thank you, members of the press. Thank you, BCTV. Thank you, ASL interpreters. Thank you, everybody who's been watching. Have a good night. Stay warm.